Hello, I'm retired Battalion Chief Larry Cockman from the Greensboro, North Carolina Fire Department History Book Committee. We're here today at the Greensboro Historical Museum. I'm standing in front of the General Green, the first steam pumper, or as they called it back then, the steamer. Today, December 9th, 2019, we are starting a new tradition of recording and preserving the heritage and culture of our retirees. Our retirees have contributed so much to the success of our great fire department. Their stories retire with them and are sometimes gone forever when they pass away. They will share their emergency calls that will always be a part of their memories forever. So sit back and listen as they carry us through their journey in the Greensboro Fire Department.
My full name is J.D. Moore. My age is 53. I was an engineer at retirement, and my assignment was Ladder 14. Originally from north of Greensboro, and live in a little small area called Brown Summit, just north of the city. I'm not related to any of the present fire department members, but my grandfather was chief of Fire District 13 back in the 50s for 8 years. It was in the early 90s. I had just accepted the Lord as my Savior, met my future wife, to-be wife. And I was working with the street department, city of Greensboro. Due to circumstances there, I decided I would reach out to the fire department once again. I'd already tried when I first got out of high school and applied, and didn't make it the first try, so I decided I'd try it again. It's a respectable position, a job, and my grandfather passed away before I was born, and I knew that he had just got back from a fire, and he passed away right after the fire, waiting on supper to be done. So that's always in the back of my head, and it's you do a service and you're able to help people, and I was always, one of those that's willing to help people if they needed some help. And so, my dad worked for the science department. He did science and markings. He's a supervisor there. First got on the fire department, the process was you sent in an interest card, and then they replied when they was ready to hire a class. And got that interest card and filled out the application. Then we had 18 weeks of training at the training center. Kerry Hensley was my chief training officer, and then I had Captain David Spears, and then Captain, we called him Hardware, but it was Captain McNeil and Captain Spears were the training officers at the time. We had 15 in our class to start with in training, and we graduated with 11. Right. But throughout training, having a small class, and we was able to join a tight-knit group, pretty quickly, with it not being so many as it is nowadays. And yeah, we had some highs and lows, as far as training went. We had some near misses, what they would call nowadays, as far as possible accidents or injuries. That was been some of the lows, but then we had real good highs when we all got together and had a good time. It was always a picking bunch. We liked to pick and play right much, so we had some highs on some jokes and stuff. Another low, I guess, have been guys not doing well on tests and on the bubble to lose their jobs. I guess that could be a low, because we all studied together. We all wanted everybody to do well, and then when you had people that was on the bubble, it was it wasn't all that happy of a moment. But when everybody passed the test, that was a good high for everybody. Tom Bishop, David Smith, had been Todd Tuttle, Mark Smith, Vince Marks, Jerry Phillips, Keith Robertson. I'm trying to keep them straight in my head. We had Kemp Gilbert, Kent Barrier, Rodney Henson. Yeah, we had, during training, we had, like I said, we was a picking group. We liked to pick and play. So we had one individual that we didn't really have a training facility for dressing and bathing and all that. So we're stuck in a little closet at the training center. where they house most of their spare stuff, extinguishers, you know, nozzles and all that stuff, is just in a little storage closet. And we'd get dressed in there, and we had an individual that liked to mess with our clothes. He was always the last one to leave the closet, and when we get back in, we'd find out that one shoe would be somebody else's stuff, or your pants would be swapped, or they'd take your name tag and poke it through your shirt and stick it in the back, so you go to put your shirt on, you know, lose your little tags or rip your shirt or something. So that went on for a couple of weeks, and we finally figured out who it was. So we decided we was going to get him back. We figured that we could get him back with some Icy Hot, because one guy liked to use Icy Hot because he, you know, aches and pains and going through all the, you know, exercise and stuff. So the idea came up, well, we'll get him with some Icy Hot. And they said, what are we going to do? We said, well, maybe we'll put in his underwear. So he was always last to come in after PT, because he wanted to come in and see everybody's look on their face as far as, you know, and hear us fuss about our clothes and stuff like that. And he's always snickering on his breath. So 3 or 4 of us decided we'd put Icy Hot on that one day, and then one pulled open his little book bag, or his little bag with his clothes in there that he changed it into, and so happened his underwear was just right there on top. So they reached in and rubbed some in his underwear and folded them back up and zipped it back up. He comes in, he's laughing because he had messed with our clothes that day, and we was all trying to keep a straight face. And we got back into the classroom after everybody had changed, and everybody was sitting there, and Captain Spears at the time was teaching, going over to what part of the lesson plan was in for that day. And he kind of sat in the middle of the class, so the ones behind him was kind of watching him. And he started wiggling in his seat, started moving around. And then about 10 minutes later, he jumps up and runs out of the classroom, raising Cain. And Spears just looked, what in the blank's wrong with him? And we all busted out laughing and told him.
That's a good story.
Needless to say, he didn't mess with our clothes after that. I felt like being a firefighter was the right thing for me, because just my personality, and I like to help people, you know. The lows in that is every time you went out, you was going to a, you know, emergency, but being able to come away and see that you actually helped somebody on when you did help somebody, it was a rewarding feeling to be able to be there. And no one wanted anybody to be injured or lose their property or anything like that. But when you was able to help and make something halfway good out of something terribly wrong or bad or their worst day to them in their life, and you was able to help them a little bit, it gave you a good warm feeling. The first station assignment was Engine 4, B shift. My first captain was Captain Roy Mark. The guys in my company was Captain Roy Mark was my captain. Tim Gibbs was a firefighter on the truck with me, and Tommy Brown was a firefighter on the truck with me, and my driver was Lynn Murchison. My chief was Larry Cockman. When I retired, the group of gentlemen that I worked with there, they like to call me Jerry or Big J.D. Big J.D. was one of the names that I was given when I was on the squad for a while, and I guess it was the longest carrying nickname among the others that I can't mention. When I think back to my squad days, when I first got on, some of the guys that I looked up to were the squadron. Being at Station 4, we rode medical calls, and the squad rode along with us at that time at certain medical calls and stuff. And I looked up to the guys on the squad, and I said, one day I want to be there. And thinking back to that, the squads were essential in a lot of ways. It was 2 guys on the squad. We had 4 squads. They divided the city in 4s. But the relationship between the squad guys and the EMS and, you know, other people that we worked with, because it was just 2 of us and we rode together a lot, we became bonded. And it was almost, when you come on the scene and you knew what ambulance was coming, you didn't really have to talk much. You worked together enough, and you knew what was called. You know, you had to hurry up and go. Let's get this done because it's an emergency. You really had, and you knew what calls you could lay back and absorb some stuff. And patients or the situation didn't really warrant the emergency that it was called for. So I think it was essential for us to have the squads due to the quick response and the actual care that the people got, and as far as getting there quick. And you had a team of 4 there, and we rode into the hospital with them, and was able to perform in areas and at times do a lot of good things and save some lives that normally probably wouldn't have if you didn't have that. To me, the reason the response times were quicker on the squad because you only had 2 people. You didn't have to wait on 4 people to get on the truck, and they were smaller, a little quicker as far as pickup, and you was able to maneuver and negotiate different areas a little bit better than the big truck that you'd had to take more time. And then with 2 people on the squad, we worked together and we knew our territory. We knew which was the fastest route for us as far as the squad. A lot of times on the squad, we would be the first on the scene. Sometimes we'd be on the scene a little longer. We wanted to be on the scene by ourselves. So due to just the limited amount of EMS and the call load, sometimes they would have to come from across town because they wasn't as close as the squads. And with the squads being divided across the city, we was usually closer to the call because when the call was dispatched, it was to that to that unit that was closest to it, and EMS would get dispatched, and the closest unit may be across town. So thinking back over my 6.5 years on the squad, there was a lot of calls, and we had a lot of opportunities to do good stuff as far as fire saves and medical saves and life saves. Thinking back, as so many, I know one of them, myself and the other squad member on the truck was Tommy Brown, and we just got defibrillators on the squad. So this happened to be one of the first times that he got to use the defibrillator on call, and we happened to ride a gentleman that was my wife's guidance counselor in high school. The call comes in, they don't know what's wrong. He falls out on the floor, and his wife calls 911. Well, it ended up being he had a heart attack. And it wasn't probably about 3 miles from the station. And we was the first one there, and Engine 18 rode with us. So getting there and getting her to explain what happened and going through our procedures of, working as we're asking questions, we put the pads on him, shocked him, and about the time we got him shocked and started CPR, Engine 18 and EMS showed up about the same time and was able to administer medicine. And I think Tommy rode into the hospital with him, and he said as they got to the hospital, he was pulling the intubation tube out of his mouth. So Tommy and I was able to go to the hospital our next shift and actually talk to him, and he wrote us a letter thanking us. So those were good days. We had some good ones, but not everyone turned out that good. On those calls that weren't so good and we weren't able to come out with the situation, with the outcome that we wanted, the final outcome that we wasn't able to, we did all we could do, and it's just one of those that we wasn't going to revive them, and it's just their time and they was ready to go. Those were hard times. The smaller kids and stuff were the hardest. It just took a lot of prayer and a lot of times yourself. Sometimes I'm a hunter, and I had to go out and sit in a tree and just reflect and do a lot of prayer. And of course, around the station, we always picked and played, and it kind of lightened the load. And I think when I was on, we all slept in the big corridors, big rooms, and everybody kind of knew each other, and they knew how to lighten the day if it was a bad day. But then other times we tried our best to make each other mad before 8:30. The new stations today that have the cubicles versus the dorm living, I see pluses and minuses on that. The pluses would be if you had those days that you wanted to get away and you needed to have some downtime and free time. You could go to your room and you got that little free time. But the drawback on that, I think a lot of people would go to that instead of spending time together, and you don't have that cohesiveness as far as being able to lighten the load on those bad days. Maybe it's too much solitude, not enough togetherness to ease those hard times, and you don't really get to know each other as well when you spend less time together as far as eating and sleeping quarters and stuff like that. During my career, the routine day for us was we come in the morning. We always got there a little early, to either mess with the off-going shift, or we always like to see what went on the day before, because when you communicate with the off-going shift, you may run something that day, because sometimes the calls come in again. They may have run a gas leak or something like that, and then you end up running a gas leak again. It could help you in solving the problem, or fire alarms and stuff like that. You could find out that. And after we did that and had a cup of coffee around the kitchen table or in the bay or something like that, we'd clean the station, clean the bay. We had different days that you did different things. So usually, captain would let you know what day was what and what was going to clean the day, or what training was involved. But basically, we'd clean the station, check our apparatus, and what we'd call operational readiness, have the truck ready. And if no calls come in and interrupted that process, we'd usually leave the station to pick up something to eat and bring it back to the station and cook it. Everybody had a cook day, and you either knew how to cook, or sometimes we helped you learn how to cook. If you couldn't cook, a lot of times your food would go in the trash. And then somebody else would step up and cook and make something worth cooking, or we'd run grab something to eat. But as a group, we tried to help the people that couldn't cook find at least 2 or 3 meals that they could cook fairly decent, and they could go with that, because usually you had a rotation, so you didn't have to eat it until a little bit later on. As far as cooking at the station, I feel like we should cook at the station together, and you should eat together. When I was at one station 15, we had a captain that had just been promoted to captain. He came to 15, he was on a special diet, and we all told him that we needed to eat together, because there was only 4 of us there, and a company that eats together, they fight fire together, and they work good together. And he would always fix his plate and go to his room to eat. I'd known this captain since I was about 8 years old, and he always picked on me. I told him I'd always get him back one day. I just had to wait my time. Well, so happened it was time, and I told him he needed to eat with us, and he wouldn't eat with us. So he was in there fixing his lunch one day, so I walked into his captain's room. I locked the bathroom door so he couldn't go in the bathroom, and I took the key out of the back side of his bedroom door, and I unplugged the phone and took the cord so he couldn't call no one. This is back before the time of cell phones real good. So when he went to his room to eat, I slipped in there and locked his door from the outside to deadbolt. So we went and had lunch, and one of the guys working with us, I think it was Wayne Arnold, we called him Skeeter. He was our driver, engineer now. And he said, "What's that racket?" I said, "Maybe the captain." He said, "What do you mean maybe the captain?" I said, "I think he might be locked in his room." He was beating on his door trying to get out. So yeah, we need to eat together, and it's, you get to know each other at the supper table, and I carry that over to my family at home. You sit down and eat together, and you find out how your day is, and I think that's a good thing at home and at work. My favorite dish to cook was lunchtime. I liked the firehouse meal. I liked cooking the firehouse meal on the days that we had time, because that consisted of doing beans, so you had to get them started early in the morning, pinto beans. And I also liked doing Chick-fil-A sandwiches at lunch in later years, because things were kind of busy, so I grilled some Chick-fil-A or something like that. And at night I liked beef ribs or a steak on the grill. We'd cook up a good steak or beef ribs. My time on the department, we had a close knit, and we went out after working, and sometimes we'd have stuff on weekends, and like Christmas parties and different parties, we'd all get together and go out to eat together. I don't see that as much now. It's not as widespread. You do see it, but you don't see it as much as it once was. I don't know what causes the change. I don't know if it's the new age, as far as the the difference in time, or if it's just, the separation at the station with the new living quarters. But it's just not as prominent now as it once was. The importance of speaking with a retired firefighter if he stops by to see you, the reason why he stopped by is to chat with someone and see if there's anyone there that he knew. And I've been retired 2 years, and I stop by a fire station every now and then just to see how many there I knew, and told him, I said, when I forget what shift it is, I'll quit coming in. But you can learn a lot from retired firemen, as far as some of the stuff that they rode and some of the stuff that they've been on, and they can help you out with a lot of useful information. And spending some time out talking with them, you can learn something from them if you'll listen sometimes. As far as retired firefighters coming back talking to the recruit class, they have some good information to pass along. And one thing is, you have a retired firefighter, he sits back and talks about the good old days. But what needs to be realized, they're sitting in their good old days. So that can give them a lot of insight and think back on, will I be able to come back in 30 years and be able to talk to a recruit and give them some vital information that would help them throughout their career and get them on the path that they want to be on. Yeah, my first fire call was day one at Station 4, which I think in the 90s, early 90s, we wrote about 875 calls, and we was wide open. We thought we was really doing it. Our first fire call was actually a little bedroom fire. It was just a little dresser on fire, and it actually was mostly out the time we got there. So that was my first fire call. I was on several nice sized fires throughout my career. The George C. Brown fire we of course seemed like we burnt something there every other month, it seemed like. And then the lumber yard fire, it burnt twice, I believe. Right off of Spring Garden Street. Okay. And yeah, we was there, rode that one. And I guess downtown, we had some fires downtown where Hams is now. I was on the ladder company then when it caught on fire, and we had to do a emergency evacuation there with some personnel. And then I guess the most memorable fire would be the 811 South M. Eugene fire. We were on that fire, and that was a real tough call for everybody throughout the whole department. It was a Mayday call where a roof collapsed on the automotive building, and the front half of the building was sort of like a vacuum cleaner, appliance type stuff, and it was full. And then the fire actually got ahead of the call because I believe some personnel there was trying to put it out themselves. And during that fire, we were dispatched to another fire on Ward Street with 56, and we was coming out of the station at 14. And as we came down Summit Avenue, we looked up and saw the fire downtown. And at that time, we had the firefighters on the back was on the TAC channel with the South M. Eugene fire, and we was on our TAC channel and going to our fire. And we kind of all agreed that we'd be at that call before it was over with, because the way the column and plume of smoke was from Summit Avenue, and they was on the other side of town, that wasn't just your ordinary car on fire in the building. So the time we got to Market Street and Burlington Road, and we was getting ready to take a left onto Burlington Road to go to Ward Street, the Mayday came out. So we just, without even asking, I just took a right, headed downtown, and the captain called 56, and as soon as he called 56 on the TAC channel, they said, "We're good here, y'all go ahead." So we got there before the second alarm did, because of where we was at on Market Street. We was able to get there fairly quick. And that was a tough day. The Mayday came out, like I said, while we was en route to the call, and we diverted for the Mayday. We got there right before the second alarm companies got there, and they had most of the people out. And as we positioned our truck to try to get our tools as close as we could to the actual building to try to help with Mayday. They had just brought the captain out when we first got there. So we had just got on scene seconds before they was able to retrieve the downed firefighter and start, emergency operations on them. The day of 9/11, I was laying on the couch just getting home from kidney stone surgery, and we got a phone call, and they said a plane crashed into the towers. And I turned the TV on, I was able to watch the second plane crash, and your heart sunk. And being a firefighter, you knew somewhat what they was up against. You didn't know what they was up against, but you knew it wasn't going to be good. So, I got to watch the second tower fall, which not only me, but a lot of people, that's one of the saddest days as far as fire service. Well, in the U.S. too. There was a lot of individuals that played a role in my career, and I looked up to a lot of the captains and chiefs, and I looked up to the squad people, and there was, as far as being a mentor, my captains kind of helped me out, and then some of the drivers at the time, they had tough love. At the time, you probably didn't know this helped me out, but the things they was wanting you to do helped you in the long run in the end. My career at the fire department, starting out as a young rookie and going through the time that I spent there, and all the stuff that I saw, good and bad, changed me a lot, and it made me respect a lot of stuff. That, made me enjoy life more, because we're not granted tomorrow, so it grew me up in more ways than I would have if I hadn't been on the fire department. I would say being on the fire department, yeah, it made you think a little deeper and about things. One of my most heartbreaking moments on the fire department, I had several. Of course, every time we rode a child or a baby, that was heartbreaking. But one day was at the grocery store. We just got the station cleaned up, and we rolled out of the station and go to the grocery store, and the call come in, and it ended up being my grandmother's address. So I told my captain, I said, that's my grandmother's address, and he says, well, what was the call? And I told him, I said, unconscious subject. He said, do you want to go? I said, if I can. So he called my chief, and Chief Larry Copeland was my chief at the time. And he granted me permission to go, and my mom, it was Sunday morning, Mother's Day Sunday morning, my mom had went to pick up my grandmother, take her to church, and found her laying in the floor. And she had deceased. By the time we got there, it wasn't really anything that could be done. So the saddest time was zipping her up in a body bag, because I knew the coroner from being on the squad and everything, you work close with the coroner and everything like that. And he was there, and that was one of the saddest things, to be in that position. But it was also a heart, because I was there too, so heartfelt thing. Yeah. One of my proudest moments was every time we had a save, whether it's a fire save or a CPR save. Those were happy days. There was proud moments. When I decided to be a driver, actually making the driver's list was a proud moment, and that's where I wanted to be, and that's where I wanted to stay. I didn't want to go anywhere else. That was me right there. Only bad thing, I felt like a dog chained to a tree, because I wanted to be inside. I remember one time at Station 8, we had a little house fire, and we had just got the new engine. We pull up and charge the lines, and another firefighter, we always helped each other out. The engineer from the other engine company, which we're still drivers then, FEOs, we weren't engineers at the time. He comes up, says, anything I can help you with? I said, yeah, watch this pump panel. So I started jumping in my clothes so I could go in. But during my career of firefighting, there were several firefighters that passed away while I was at work. First one, I was at Station 8, and Andrew Nyland had a car accident the shift before our work shift. And he was killed in a car accident, and we walked in early that morning, and the squad guys was up front. We walked up front and was talking to the squad guys and asked them how the day was, and of course they were down, and they told us that they had rode Andrew, and Andrew was on our shift, and he had actually died in a car wreck. Captain Cabness, I was working with him at Station 14. He was training for marathon. And like I said, I show up early in the morning and pull up, and he was in the back wringing wet. He would run to work training for a marathon every morning, doing his work and training. And he went to run his marathon, and he was within sight of the finishing line, and he collapsed. And he collapsed in the Chicago Marathon, just within sight of the finish line. And those were some tough days because. Would I go through the fire department again or apply for the fire? Yes, I still love the fire service, but you know, as you get older, you know when it's time for you to leave, and it was my time to leave. I still enjoyed the fire service. As far as going back through it, yeah, it was a good job. I mean, as far as doing anything different on the fire service, yeah, there's always, you look back, there's always things you think you could do different. If those things that you think you could do different, you look back on now that you can look back and see them, but when you're in them, sometimes you think you're doing the right thing when you're there. And then once you look back, you say, yeah, there's a few things I probably would have done a little different. I probably would have finished my degree. Was in school trying to get my degree in, and we had kids. And after I finished up that semester, I said, well, I'll get it later, and I never did go back to finish up that degree. So, yeah, some of the stuff I probably would have done a little different. Smacked a few a little more and smacked a few a little less here and there. The roles of firefighter over the years have changed due to the different type of material that's burning and different emergencies that have lost firefighters' lives. And we try to learn from those situations and those fire calls because you're doing a dishonest to the people that lost their life if you don't take that call or that situation where they lost their life and expound on it and grow from it and try to make it better for everybody else. So as far as your roles, yeah, you know, life changes different things, and it forces you to change your roles as far as emergency situations, because you don't want to be the next one that they have to train on. Right. What I consider a successful firefighter is one that knows their job, does their job well, and they come home safe. The role of family and faith as a firefighter played a big role. I have a close family. We all are close. We all, you know, like I say, we ate supper around the table. And now that we're older, we try to eat lunch together. As we're all out working, try to eat lunch together at least once a week, and get together. And was saved in the 90s, and my faith helped me a lot as far as facing and working my way through different situations and sad moments on the fire department. And hopefully, I was able to help some other people along the way with some of the stuff as far as faith. And the one person that really made a difference in my life would be my wife. She's strongly based in religion, and she's a God-fearing woman. And the days that I was off center, she had a way to bring me back. As far as the fire service and the toll it took on my life, yes, it did take a toll on my life.
Okay.
And that's another thing I tell the rookies today is you need to train like it's your life that's dependent on it, because you got to look after yourself. And I did some things that I probably could have done a little better to look after myself. So I have some aches and pains I probably wouldn't have if I would have took some advice from older firefighters at the time and listened when they said you end up regretting that one day. And I don't really regret it, but I wish I would have listened and not worked a little smarter instead of harder, and training will help you work smarter. Well, I know Captain Mark, when I was a rookie, he tried to And you was part of this too, probably. He tried to get me above standard on evaluation. He sent an above standard. He said, you can't have a rookie above standard. So I said, that's fine with me. Standard's good. I don't want to be anything above. Standard's good.
We hope you enjoyed watching these documentaries. It was our goal to share and preserve the memories of our retired Greensboro firefighters. It is our desire that these documentaries will inspire future generations to continue the brotherhood, sisterhood, and camaraderie while always striving for excellence in their careers. While fire apparatus, equipment, and technology have improved, several things will always remain the same. The courage and bravery it takes to mitigate natural and man-made disasters will always be a part of the job. Although our retirees are no longer a physical part of the GFD world, a giant piece of each retiree's memories have been shared with you today. These memories will be in their hearts and minds forever. A special thank you goes out to Captain Harold Haney for his many long hours of recording and editing. Thank you, Harold. A job well done.